Welcome to Someone Doing Something, a channel and a community dedicated to the idea that, we're all someone. We're all going somewhere. We're all trying our best to make something of ourselves, and you're worth doing something about. A channel about growth, about forward momentum, about figuring out who we are, and where we would like to be through our personal development, through our mental health, and through our spiritual connection. So, in this video, one of the important cornerstones of figuring out who you are and where you want to go is reflecting on who you've been, moments that have defined you, and how they shaped your trajectory going forward. That's what this video is. Very quickly, I'm going to work through 10 moments that changed my life the most over the last 31 years. I just turned 31. My birthday is January 4th. And this is something that I try to do every single year when I can and when I can remember. Look back, reflect, and jot down a quick little list of the moments that impacted you the most. Because the crazy thing is, 3 of them that are on my list now happened this year alone. So that means 3 that were on my list last year and the year before that all got pushed off the list. Sure, they had an impact on my 20s and on my teens, but as life transforms and we grow and shape ourselves as people, the moments that stand out the most also tend to change and shift. So hopefully this will be the first video here on this channel with me looking back and reflecting. I'll link another one I did on a smaller personal channel a while back if you're curious. But hopefully this will start the tradition of looking back on my life and seeing how things that I thought were so important for a season change and adjust and move out of the way when other, bigger, more impactful moments happen. Okay. 10 moments that changed my life. The first I wrote down, and I have these in order of when I remember them on my personal timeline. The first I jotted down was nights spent curled up next to my mom with her reading me books when I was young. I remember loving stories and being ahead when it came to reading in my age group and in my school, consuming ravenously the books that she'd placed before me, and oftentimes books that I couldn't even read myself. We'd journeyed through Harry Potter. We'd ventured through the hills and the footlands of the Redwall series. My grandfather talked to me about Lord of the Rings, and I listened to books on tape like Adventures in Odyssey and mountain climbing expeditions when I was very young. This instilled in me a love for storytelling, for adventure, for communication, for reading, and it's only been positive in my life. What a blessing and what a gift she gave to me when she taught me at a very young age to appreciate and value and share stories, to spin tales in my mind and to open up my imagination. The second moment I have is my mom's death. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at an extremely young age. My sister, I think, was maybe 2 years old. I was around 5. And I remember specifically moving to my grandparents and the tenuous, shaky foundation that caused in our household. Stage 4 breast cancer for her at that time was more or less a death sentence. The only question was how long she would live. She lived for about 7 years. So when I was 10 or 11, she passed away. The age of what I think was 34, but I don't quite remember. That shaped my youth, it shaped our family, and it had ripple effects throughout my teenage and young adult years. It still shapes, to a defining point, who I am now. There's moments that I'll never get to share with her, that most people get to share with their parents or with their mother. There's grandchildren that she'll never get to meet, hopefully, one day. There's a lot of stuff that you reconcile, miss out on, and learn to move beyond. I don't think this is one that'll ever come off the list. But I'll be interested to see. When I was 13, my grandfather took me to hike the Appalachian Trail with him from the Pennsylvania-Maryland border all the way up to Mount Katahdin, Maine, something like 1,500 or 1,700 miles when it was all said and done after we did sections of the trail here and there. Those 3.5 months were some of the best months of my life. They helped me grow past the death of my mom in important and notable ways. They gave me confidence and a security in the idea that I could set out on a course and accomplish something. And they were important moments to bond, to learn, and to grow with my grandfather and the other adults on the trail. I grew up, matured, and figured out more about myself on the Appalachian Trail than I think I did any single moment throughout school. I don't know if this one will ever come off the list. It seems as I get older, I both become more and more nostalgic for the trail, and I forget just how sweet it is as life takes more and more hold of my day-to-day. Maybe I'll be able to take one day a son out there on the trail with me and share in that same experience. Maybe even a grandson, if I'm lucky. 150 Days Vow of Silence. When I was about 15, I stopped talking for 150 days as a way to look into myself, reflect, try to build some stamina, try to work on habits that I was trying to establish. For me, it was both a physical, mental, and spiritual experiment and experience, and it left me with a sense of calm. Again, another chance to prove to myself that I could accomplish something, and a defining character trait that I carried with me for the next decade of my life. This idea that I was the type of person that would do things that other people wouldn't do. Would set out on a course that was weird, different, and twisted, and accomplish it, complete it. I was really proud and grateful for that time that I spent in silence, and I'm still looking forward to the opportunity in the future to do a similar thing. Maybe this year, around the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the week of reflection and prayer. Maybe then I'll be able to take a week off and spend it thinking, meditating, being still. When I was about 19, I left the faith that I grew up with. I grew up in the Methodist Church, but really I was a non-denominational Christian, stretching all the way from Baptist theology to Methodist to Protestant, kind of Reformed, faith-healing communities. I'd become entranced and absorbed and fully engulfed in the Christian movement until a certain point when I could no longer reconcile the theology that had been set before me. I have another video on converting to Orthodox Judaism when I was about 27, 28, over the course of the last few years. But long story short, I hit a point where I couldn't move forward with faith anymore because I was unwilling to sacrifice truth for the sake of comfort and belief. That led to a spiraling depression, to many mental health challenges, to the eventual discovery of Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged, of Jordan Peterson, and the idea that life was in many ways tragic and hard, and it was in the midst of our suffering that we were able to truly appreciate the value that it had. It shaped a lot of my 20s. And a lot of the stuff that I faced and overcame and the course that I set for myself was built off the idea that as an individual, as a person, there was merit in working hard, in overcoming, and in the pursuit of something greater. So, that had to be on the list. When I was about 21, I got my first ever tattoo. It was a tattoo around my neck that says, "Until Forever Ends," with little Greek text underneath it. That's Kaliste, or "To the Most Beautiful One." I now have tattoos up and down my arms, on my legs, all unfinished projects, and all projects that'll never be finished now that I am a Orthodox Jew. But tattoos for me changed how I perceived myself. There was a lot of mental health work that was done in that parlor. From the application of tattoos on my arms that led to me stopping any type of self-harm or cutting, because I had that visual reminder of who I was and who I wanted to be, to the fact that I just grew to be a person who was comfortable taking off my shirt and living, being vulnerable. I spent most, if not all, of my teenage years in large, baggy hoodies with as little skin shown as possible. So, tattoos for me changed how I viewed myself, changed how I perceived the world viewed me, and shaped a lot about who I became and who I was. It set a course and a reminder that constantly reminded me who I wanted to be. When I was about 25, 26, I started a YouTube channel called Quackalope. Being a YouTuber had been a dream of mine for the longest time, and I fell in love with board games, found a community there, and so started a channel. That carried me through the pandemic and the last 5 years of my life. It set the course to shape friendships that I built, relationships that I developed, my introduction to Judaism in the first place, and really has been the backbone of the last 5 years of my journey. Starting that channel was a risky maneuver. I remember sleeping in my car at a convention after just losing a massive contract in the photography world in Washington, D.C., and saying, no, I'm committed. I'm here. I'm going to do this, hell or high water. And I did. And it's been an incredible journey. So, it's one of those moments that I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for starting that channel to begin with. The 3 that happened this year. Over the course of this year, I finished a conversion to Orthodox Judaism that took the better part of 2 years, working with a Orthodox rabbi here in the Cleveland community and going through a lot of steps and a lot of process and a lot of growth to get to the point where I am now. I also got married. But a month and a half after that conversion, I went to Israel for 5 weeks, flew home, and had a wedding with my amazing, wonderful wife, Shira Anderson, now shaven before. You can see her over on the main channel, Quackalope, and she'll probably be doing stuff with me here on Someone Doing Something soon. We're approaching, I think, our 8-month anniversary, and being married has been the biggest blessing, the greatest gift of my life. I'm grateful every day for the relationship I have, how hardworking, diligent, caring, and mindful my wife is, how supportive she is of my weird quirks and adventures, and just how desperately I need her. Doing my best to grow and become someone that is worthy of having a partner like her. Following up, something that happened over the last month, really the last week and a half, an official psychological diagnosis of ADHD and access to medication, Adderall substitute at the moment, that has given me the ability to focus and do work and tasks that I've never in my life been able to do before. It's life-changing and transformative and explains so much of what I've struggled with for the last 20 years of my life. So there you have it. The 10 moments in my life that have set trajectories, that have changed and shaped who I am and who I've become. Let me know, from your perspective, what stands out to you in your past and in your history? Have you seen some come and go? And share with me, what are the moments that have shaped who you are now? Remember, if you're someone, you're worth doing something for. Challenge yourself, grow and become, and keep going. You're worth it.